Hey everyone. So, I want to start with this quote because I always love this quote. It's actually by a man and it was given to me from a man, and I just changed the words to she and her, and I lived by this quote. It says, "The master in the art of living makes little distinction between her work and her play, her labor and her leisure, her mind and her body, her information, her recreation, her love, and her religion. She hardly knows which is which. She simply pursues her vision in excellence at whatever she does, leaving others to decide whether she is working or playing to she. She's always doing both." I lived by this. And you know, I was so used to being told no when I started out in an all-male industry. The first time I showed up at a warehouse to work, there were 3 men that locked arms and actually prevented me from coming in. Didn't bother me. I liked the word no. I worked through it. I got one of their jobs. No big deal. It didn't bother me that another man stopped me from trying to get my auctioneer license in the state of Texas because apparently it was his. I work all over Texas. And it didn't bother me when people wrote some of my biggest clients to try to trash talk me. See, I was so used to the word no, and I was so proud of this quote that I was going to be excellent at everything I did, and there'd be no division between me and my company. See, when you hired me, you got me. And so there'd be no line between the two. I hate this quote because it almost cost me my life. And now we're going to get vulnerable. So what happens when life says no? What happens when you have it all figured out and there's no line between you and your company? And when they hire you, they get you. But the problem is that you can't tell them what's really going on with you. See, many of you know, in November of 2014, I went out for a jog on Thanksgiving morning and I got hit by a car. I got thrown 15 feet in the air and split my head open, suffered a brain injury, developed a stutter, lost my hearing, lost my eyesight, and lay on a road as a Jane Doe. As that's what I told you and that's what you know, but what you don't know is I shouldn't have even been out there to begin with. I mean, really, it's Thanksgiving Day. You can't not run 3 miles because you've already got your kids dressed and your ex-husband's on your way over before you go to get your boyfriend's house and fly on an airplane. And seriously, you're actually bouncing at the sidewalk before you get hit, texting to make sure that your boyfriend buys his mom flowers. I mean, really? You have to do it all? So I get hit by the car. But that was just the beginning of it. See, because there's no line between me and my work. So I couldn't really tell you what was going on with me. I couldn't tell you that on January 27th when we hosted the Super Bowl here, I was just down the street from here at the Marriott. And as I was on that stage doing what I all do, what you're used to me doing, running around in my heels and doing my thing, all of a sudden my right foot kind of buckled. And my eyes went back in my head. And my tongue dropped. And what looked like me coming off the stage to you was actually me falling off the stage because I was having a seizure. But I was hiding it from you. Hit it so well, I still made $200,000. But after I thanked all of you, I actually went over to Barrows and was diagnosed as having had a mild stroke. But I still had to go to work. And I couldn't let you know because there was no line between me and my company. So if there was something wrong with me, you would think there's something wrong with my company. And what happens with that? I mean, I got kids to feed, I've got bills to pay. I worked hard. So now I've got to deal with this, and what happens is that all of you were upside down. I developed vertigo so badly that when you saw me on Panda walking down the runway and some of my assistants are here, they walked next to me to make sure I didn't fall off. I could barely actually walk out of my bedroom to pour my children orange juice in the morning with my hands shaking all over. I had such PTSD. I had such vertigo that literally you all were hanging from the ceiling and I was terrified on stage. But I hid it because there was no line between me and my company. And I didn't want to lose it. So then 8 months later, the father of my children, the love of my life, my best friend, even though we were split, shot himself. And you may know that. But what you don't know is that I actually had to go with my brother-in-law and my sister and clean that up because that was a rental. And we had 24 hours to get it done. Clean that up. And then go get on a stage. And the PTSD came back. And the vertigo came back. And all of you were hanging from the ceiling. But I couldn't let you know. Because I had bills to pay, kids to feed, more so now than ever. So then life kind of threw me a bone, and 14 months later, I meet this man, this amazing man. We call him the Keeper. And he comes in my life, and I'm thinking, wow, this is awesome. You know, there's going to be music again, there's going to be dancing. But you know what I did? I blurred those lines again. I thought, well, we all know what it's like to have that person that holds you, that hugs you on our first date. I said, hey, can I just ask you something? If we're in a plane and the plane's going down, what would you do? And he said, well, I'd put my arm around you and tell you it's going to be okay. And I said, thank you. And then a year and a half into it, as we blended our families, he would come home to find his child, death by suicide. And I had to get on a stage in Chicago and hide it. But that vertigo was coming back. So I flew to Los Gatos where they live. They weren't going to do a viewing of his body. So I stood over what would have been my stepchild in a body bag, cold, pulled up a chair for that man, the Keeper, and listened to him wail over his child, and realized that not only did I just lose my +1 child, but I just lost my Keeper. And so for the next year, I would go on to hide it. The vertigo would come back, and I would lose that man. The grief would become insurmountable. But here's the thing about the entrepreneur. See, for him, he walked into human resources, got 3 months paid leave, 6 months off with insurance, took off to Paris, Australia, Oregon, Hawaii, wherever, and just left. But the entrepreneur has to stay behind. See, I got to go to work. I have children to take care of. I got to show up. And the vertigo came back. So there was a very wise man in all of this that came across in my work that said to me, because he too had had an accident that caused a brain injury and had PTSD, and he said, you know, Letitia, if you were to take all these things that happened to you and put it into one word, what did God take from you? I said, well, I have vertigo. He goes, well, what does that mean? I said, well, then God took my balance. He said, did you ever have any in your life before any of this? No, absolutely none, because I live by that quote. So guess what? I don't have human resources, and when you find her, you'll find janitorial services and payroll and marketing, because it's all me. So guess what? I had to draw a line between me and my company. And for the first time, I had to learn what it means to take care of myself. I had to slow down. I had to find balance. How? Well, even this morning, every day, even if I have to be up at 2 a.m. to catch a flight in another state on a time change, I get up 30 minutes prior, and I begin on my knees, and I pray. And the first thing I pray is what I'm thankful for. Not what I don't have, but what I do have. And then I pray for the other people in my life, and then lastly, I pray for myself. And I listen to some calming music, and I ease into my day. And when I end my day, I end the same way, on my knees, in gratitude, praying for others, for myself, calm music, and I ease out of my day. I started reading again, 3 to 4 books every couple weeks, taking time. I started taking naps. I used to say you can sleep when you're dead, and that got a little too close for home. You see, I started to learn to say no. I said no to clients, some that would say, hey, would you come speak for free at this event because you're doing our auction? No. I said no to my kids. Hey, Mom, can we do this? No, not today. I started to learn to say no to the many people I mentor. That I need this now. No, not today. And the biggest person I had to learn to say no to was me. And the other thing I had to learn how to do was to look in the mirror and say, I love you, and mean it. to look in the mirror and say, I'm not going anywhere. I got your back. We got this. The plane might be going down, but it's all going to be okay because I'm not going anywhere. And mean it. I learned to balance, and I learned that there must be a line between me and my company. Because if I don't take care of me, none of it matters. And so while volunteering at a gay camp with 1 in 10, a very wise woman named Tuesday said to me once, and the reason I took off my heels today, is when I volunteer, I have no makeup on, I have no heels, I wear a baseball cap, and she said to me once, I'm so lucky because I feel like I know both Peter Parker and Spider-Man. It's exhausting being Spider-Man. And I like Peter Parker. Balance. I have learned it. And I have a permanent check on my shoulder when things are getting out of balance that remind me, because all of you start hanging from the ceiling and it's not fun. So now you know. And I'm glad you know, because I'd like you to meet Peter Parker. Balance. Thank you.